طيب, what was the last, what was the topic or the subject of our class yesterday?
It was about the
Who can
sunlight and the
remind me
atmosphere.
about this?
Me.
طيب, يلا تفضل ليث.
We yesterday talk about the sunlight that can be absorbed or reflected by different parts of the atmosphere.
طيب, thank you. طيب, now another question. How many layers of the atmosphere are there?
Me, can I answer?
Wait, Lay. يلا. How many layers of atmosphere? What are the layers of the atmosphere? طيب, محمد جمال تفضل.
أستاذ
What
إن
are the
أربعة مش
layers of the atmosphere? تفضل.
they're four right
What?
they're four
مش سامعينه؟
بقول لك هم أربعة
Yes.
صوتك مش واضح يا جمال.
Can you list for
معك
me
محمد
at
مش
least one
واضح.
of them? Can you list for me at least one of
okay
what?
troposphere
Yes.
troposphere
Troposphere.
stratosphere
Stratosphere.
stratosphere
Meso.
mesosphere
أيوة.
mesosphere وثيرموسفير.
طيب. طيب الآن ليث. Can you tell me? Thank you محمد جمال. Thank you. Excellent. What happens to the light or sun's energy? طيب. Is all of the energy or is all of sun's energy reach Earth's surface?
No, because some of them are harmful, so the atmosphere reflects them to the space.
Yes, the layers of the atmosphere, the thermosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, and troposphere absorb most of this energy, and only a small part of the visible light, a small part or a small percentage of the ultraviolet, infrared reaches the Earth's surface. Fine. Thank you very much. Now, today, as you see here, these are where is the ozone type? In which layer? Where is the ozone? In which layer? Is it in the
stratosphere?
Where?
Stratosphere.
In the stratosphere. Yes.
أنا
سمعت كأن نسرين حكيت. صح. Thank you ليث. Thank you. مش مشكلة. طيب خليني أنا نسيت أخذ إيش يا نسرين؟ إيش؟
stratosphere هي.
طيب استنى شوي. هيو. Look here. In the stratosphere, ozone absorbs more infrared and ultraviolet energy. So it is in the stratosphere. Today, inshallah, we are going to talk about Earth's energy budget. What happens, or we are going to talk about the sun's energy, how it is distributed, distributed on Earth. Look, the radiation that travels from the sun to the troposphere, the part of the sun's energy that reaches the troposphere, only about 50%, is absorbed by what? استنى شوي. Wait a minute. طيب. Look here. Of the radiation that travels from the sun to the troposphere, only about 50% is absorbed is absorbed by land and water and converted or transformed to heat. Okay, so of all of the radiation from the sun, 50% is absorbed by land and water and converted to heat. What happens to the rest? What happens to the other 50%? Look, the rest
It's
of the,
reflected.
what? Fine. As shown in figure 3, inshallah, look at this figure 3. This is, by the way, right beside it. هاي الصورة شايفينها مهمة جدا لأنها راح it will explain for us what will happen to the radiation that comes from the sun. طيب. What happens to the rest of the radiation? Okay. The rest, as shown figure 3, is reflected by clouds and particles, other particles in the atmosphere. This part is, so 25% of the radiation is reflected by clouds and other particles in the atmosphere. 20% of the radiation is absorbed by gases and particles. Okay? Again, of all the radiation, 50% is absorbed by land and water. The other 50% is distributed like this. 25% is reflected by clouds. 20% is absorbed by gases. And only 5% is reflected by the surface itself. For example, snow, ice, and liquid water reflect some sunlight back into the atmosphere, where some will be absorbed by clouds and particles that the energy missed on the way down. Look here at this figure. خلينا نحل هذول البوكسز. خلينا نقرأ السؤال أول شيء. Label. This is the sun's energy budget. Label the different percentages of energy that are absorbed or reflected. You can, or we can answer this question. We can complete these boxes by using this paragraph. Look here. What should we write?
Can I solve the first one?
يلا نسرين. يلا هو.
This one,
Yes.
it's absorbed by gases.
لا يعني هون we should write percentages يعني نسرين.
20%.
Here. Are you sure?
Yeah.
طلع. ارجع لفوق شوي. What do you see? Look at the arrow.
It's not like.
Look. 50% is absorbed
by land
and water. So this is.
Oh, okay. So 50%.
Yes. Please write here 50%.
Can I answer the next one?
Understood?
Yes.
50%. طيب. يلا. This one. يلا. لا بدناش هاي بدنا هاي. هون.
Where?
اطلع.
Teacher, what's the first number?
استنى شوي بس.
50%.
هون we should write. خلينا again أعملها أحسن هيك. Here again we should write 50%. طيب. What should we write here? يلا.
Which one? Which one?
This one.
Oh, okay. It's reflected by gases.
طيب, what is the percentage? Reflected by the clouds.
20.
No,
Me,
5%.
25.
25%
بس reflected مش absorbed.
is reflected
طيب
by.
reflected by the clouds.
Here, look, it means
Okay.
reflection, reflected by clouds. طيب, now here شباب ليش يعني البقية ساكتين ليش؟ يعني بس كم من واحد اللي بيشارك.
هاي 20%.
محمد,
20.
محمد, thank you. Where should we put 20% here?
Under
Yeah.
it, yes.
Yes, 20%. Do you know why?
It's 5.
It's absorbed by gases.
Yes, because there is or there are 20% absorbed by gases. طيب, and
Last one is 5.
5%.
last one is 5. And notice that if you add 50 with 25, 20 and 5,
Of them are 1%.
100%. So the last one right here, please, 5%. طيب, this is what happens, يعني the distribution of the radiation. Or in another way, it's the Earth's energy budget. It's Earth's energy budget. Now, okay, only a tiny fraction of the radiation of a visible light, that reaches Earth's surface is transformed to chemical energy by plants and other photosynthetic organisms. Right. So the visible light, a small percentage of the, or a tiny fraction of the visible light is used by plants and other photosynthetic organisms to make food. They change it into energy or food. Okay, in a process called what? What is this? What is the process? Photosynthesis. But what is the meaning of photosynthetic organisms?
The organisms that make food by using energy from the sunlight.
Yes, the organisms that can make their own food, or the producers. They include plants and what? Who can give me other examples of organisms that can make food, or give me other photosynthetic organisms in addition to plants? Plants are not the only organisms that can perform photosynthesis. There are other organisms.
I only know plants, so I really don't know.
No, not only plants. Who can tell me? Who can give me example?
Maybe some organisms, some animals.
No, animals are
Bacteria or fungi or something.
not fungi. Look.
They decompose.
Thank you, Nisri. Thank you, Zaid. Thank you. Algae. Do you remember algae?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Algae. طلع.
Isn't algae?
Look, plants, algae, and not all bacteria, some types of bacteria all of these are called in science called producers or autotrophs.
وفي الهوموتروفs.
Autotrophs, they are producers. They do not need another organisms for food. But animals, other organisms like animals, humans, are not autotrophs. They can't make food, their own food. Animals get energy by eating other animals or other plants. Humans get energy by eating animals or plants. Fungi are decomposers. They break down the remains of living things. Also, they are not producers. Now, plants, algae, and some types of bacteria are called photosynthetic organisms. Are called what? Photosynthetic organisms, because they can make their own food. Now, the most important thing for me to know, you have to know that only very small fraction of the visible light that reaches Earth's surface is used by these organisms or photosynthetic organisms. They change this light to what? To chemical energy. Chemical energy is stored in the food, in the sugar that the plants make. Shabab, is it understood? Fine. Now,
Yes.
the rest of the visible light, is absorbed by Earth and re-emitted. So what is the meaning of re-emitted? It is again reflected into the atmosphere as infrared radiation. Fine. Now you have to know that Earth's surface absorbs and re-emits equal amounts of energy so that its energy remains in balance. The total amount of energy must be equal. The energy that is absorbed and emit and the energy that re-emits, they must be equal. Okay, fine. For this reason, the energy remains in balance. Fine. Look at this question, reading check. Describe the atmosphere's role in moderating the amount of electromagnetic radiation necessary to sustain life on Earth. I want to read the question again. Describe the atmosphere's role or the importance of the atmosphere in moderating the amount of electromagnetic radiation necessary to sustain life on Earth. Can anyone give me the answer?
They reflect
Harmful.
UV rays from the sun to maintain the health of people.
عيد سؤالك ما فهمت الشيء عليك كمان مرة.
Come back إنه they reflect harmful rays بس.
Good. This is part of the answer. زيد.
I was going to say the same thing. It reflects the harmful.
Yes, and also allows. Thank you. By the way, your answers are good.
Allows visible light to reach.
It allows enough energy that sustain life, like the visible light, and also block the radiation that is harmful. Write the answer, please. The atmosphere allows. بنهاية الحصة راح أخذ الحضور والغياب. بس بدي واحد to remind me. The atmosphere allows in what? Enough energy. Allows enough energy to sustain life, like the visible light, as we say that it is the atmosphere allows the visible light that is used by plants to make food, or atmospheric organisms. So the atmosphere allows enough energy to sustain life, while, sorry, it's a comma, while blocking radiation, that would harm life. Like the ultraviolet light or the infrared radiation. Shabab, get it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Done? ولا لسه؟
Yes, I'm done.
I'm done.
بس آخر سطر.
يلا مش مشكلة. لقيت انت هسه هيك شكلك صار زي الصورة هاي.
أو أستاذ
سبحان الله.
صار شكليك.
طيب انتوا يعني بتشغلوش الكاميرا عندكم ما بتغسلوا وجهكم؟
أستاذ بس منحبش بدنا خصوصية.
خصوصية خاصة.
شو الخصوصية؟ انه نشوف شعرك مكرفش يعني؟
بجوز.
طيب. طيب okay, turn to the next page. If you finish, turn to the next page. The greenhouse effect. طيب مين عمره شاف الجرين هاوس؟
شنو؟
شو يا أستاذ؟
What is the greenhouse?
لا ما عمري شفته ولا بعرفه.
ما بتعرف شو الجرين هاوس؟
هذا الإشي اللي جواته نبات صح؟
Excellent سواعي. Houses made up of glass and they grow plants inside them. خليكم شوي wait a minute بدي افرجيكم اياهم.
أعتقد إني عرفتها.
استنى شوي يا محمد. جرين هاوس wait a minute بس. طيب طلعت عندكم الصورة؟
Yes.
طيب this is the greenhouse.
أوكي هسه عرفته.
Okay, this is another one. Okay, طيب we are talking about the atmosphere. Okay, what is the relationship between these greenhouses and the atmosphere? Why? What is the meaning of greenhouse effect? Is there
It also prevent like the ultraviolet to come to the plants.
again, Sreen, again?
They also prevent the ultraviolet to come to the plants.
Not like this, not like this. By the way, this هاي أصلاً هم قصة. It's like gases. The gases that found or the atmosphere acts like these greenhouses. Look here, gases. Look, this gas, this glass protect. Sorry, this glass like the gases of the atmosphere, like the atmosphere. It allows energy to come from the sun for the plants, but at the same time, it heats. Look, this glass heats the greenhouse. إذا شفت هون جوا راح تلاقي إنه it's warm because of this glass. The same thing for gases. Gases of the atmosphere. Look, the gases of the atmosphere act like this. For this reason, scientists call it greenhouse effect. Okay, طيب. Let's start. Have you ever been to a greenhouse to buy plants? Okay, it's not important. Give yes or no the answer. Have you ever been to a greenhouse to buy plants? شباب الصوت رايح ولا موجود الصوت؟
نعم دكتور.
طيب the glass walls ما تعملوا highlight الباراجراف هاي ما تعملوا لها بس بدي منكم to understand what do you mean by the greenhouse effect. The glass walls and roof of a greenhouse allow sunlight inside, of course, because it is transparent لأنه شفاف راح يسمح للsunlight to inside. Some sunlight is absorbed by plants and transformed, as you know, into chemical energy by photosynthesis. Most of the sunlight is converted to heat. So if you enter inside, if you go inside the greenhouse, you can find that it is warm. Much of the heat is contained by the glass panes of the greenhouse, keeping the interior or the inside at an acceptable temperature for planting growth. Right. This is the greenhouse. What happens inside the greenhouse? The same thing happens in the atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere plays a similar role like the greenhouse. Sunlight is absorbed, as you know, and transformed into heat within the atmosphere and in the materials at Earth's surface, such as rock and water. So, again, Earth's atmosphere plays a similar role of the greenhouse. It absorbed the heat, absorbed energy and transformed this into heat, which makes the temperature on Earth acceptable. Right. Also, the surface re-radiates or radiates again all that energy, and Earth's total energy remains in balance over time. So the Earth's atmosphere make energy on Earth in balance at the same amount. Right. If suppose that, imagine that the atmosphere is not found, there is no atmosphere, what will happen? So otherwise, Earth would continually heat up because all of the energy from the sun will come to the Earth. They would continually heat up and we will turn to what? To molten rock. What is the meaning of molten?
Like lava. Lava that isn't erupted.
يعني المولتن when something molten rock يعني زي بتصير زي كأنه ماجما أو لافا. Melt or molten, the same thing. طيب. Gases in the atmosphere trap some of the heat near Earth's surface, okay? While some heat escapes into space. طيب, look here, please. This paragraph or this figure shows the greenhouse, okay? Earth as a greenhouse. Again, I want you to know, to understand that Earth atmosphere protect or allow some of the energy from the sun to reach the Earth's surface and emit or re-radiate some of it. For this reason, the total energy or the temperature on Earth is acceptable, or the temperature on Earth remains acceptable. But what is the problem? Because of human activities, burning fossil fuels, more carbon dioxide, more and more carbon dioxide and methane gas released in the atmosphere. These gases can trap a lot of heat. Finally, or the problem is that the Earth atmosphere becomes hotter than in the past. Okay, this is called the greenhouse effect. Again, overall, Earth's atmosphere keeps our planet at a temperature, again, that is adequate to support life or acceptable. organisms are adapted to specific ranges of temperatures. Of course, the polar bear, for example, polar bear is adapted to very cold temperatures. Camels or desert animals are adapted to live in hot temperature. Now, if there is a change in the temperature, suppose that the temperatures in the poles, in the North Pole or the South Pole, increased. The polar bear, for example, may not be able to adapt again. So organisms will be affected. Fine. Surface features such as the sea level and the amounts of trapped ice have been relatively constant for thousands of years. I mean, the amount of ice in the Arctic and Antarctic, or in the North Pole and the South Pole, thousands or millions of years ago, the amount of ice is constant, does not change. But if the Earth's atmosphere or if the Earth's temperature increased, what will happen? The ice will start what? What will happen to the ice if the temperature increased?
The ice will melt.
Yes,
Ice will melt.
when the ice melts,
It will evaporate.
when large amounts of ice melt, what will happen to it? Will change to liquid water, and this will cause a
Yes.
change in the sea level. The sea level will rise.
And it will cause a flood or something
Yes.
like that.
It can cause floods in areas that are close to the oceans. So this is a problem. Greenhouse effect is a problem. Simply خليكم تفهموا شو معنى الجرين هاوس effect. إنه temperatures of the earth increase. ليش؟ لأنه الgases like carbon dioxide and methane increased in the atmosphere because of human activities. Because we burn a lot of fossil fuels, we burn a lot of petroleum, we burn a lot of coal. However, changes to the composition of the atmosphere, those gases that absorb the infrared energy radiated from Earth's surface can result in changes in the temperature. These gases trap heat. Most scientists who study the atmosphere, and the climate think that humans have been, this is the main problem. Most scientists think, or who study the climate or the atmosphere, believe that humans have been enhancing the greenhouse effect by increasing what? The amounts of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere. تحكي لكم شغله مهمه important. Carbon dioxide is found in the atmosphere naturally. There is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. There is methane naturally, but these gases or these two gases are found in very small amount.
But they become more toxic.
لا.
More toxic when
Human
they burn or
activity,
something like that.
human activity increased the levels of these gases. Look here. Do you remember the composition of the atmosphere or the gases? As you know that 78% of the atmosphere is what? Nitrogen. 21% is oxygen.
Oxygen.
Now, 1% of the atmosphere,
Is
1%
methane and carbon
is made
dioxide.
up of other gases. Like other gases include water vapor, for example, carbon dioxide, methane. These gases again are found. This is the natural distribution of gases. These gases, water, carbon dioxide, and methane, found naturally in the atmosphere. But as you see, they are less than 1%. But because of human activities, because we burn a lot of fuel, these two gases increased. These two gases cause an increase to the temperature of the Earth's surface. هاي هي الجرينهاوس effect. إنه these two gases, mainly carbon dioxide and methane, cause or increase the temperature of the atmosphere. Okay, this has caused an increase in the average temperature of Earth, which, as you know, in turn is causing changes to sea level and melting ice in polar regions and in glaciers. Glaciers are huge sheets of ice. Increasing the concentration or the levels of carbon dioxide and methane gas in the atmosphere caused increased the average temperature of the Earth. يعني scientists now the temperature of Earth now is larger or higher. The average temperature of Earth now is much higher than that in the past because of the greenhouse effect. And if the average temperature of Earth continue to increase, what will happen? The ice in the polar regions and the glaciers will melt and sea level will rise. طيب, that's enough. Goodbye.
هاد كله نعمل له هايلايت.
Yes. See you inshallah on Sunday. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
You too, teacher. Bye.
Goodbye.